Hello everyone, today I'm looking at Call of Duty 1. Yeah, no, I decided to kind of go back in time, back to the past, and kind of see what this game was like. So this game came out 2003, and it was mostly, I believe, based on PC. It wasn't until really Call of Duty 3 that it really, started to come to console, essentially. And so it's pretty much a PC-based game. But yeah, coming back to this original one, or, the remastered edition, whatever, it's still, this is a very rough game. There's some very funny things in it where, like, it does D-Day, but it does, like, the aerial parachuting part of D-Day. It doesn't actually have it in this game. And so basically you play as the Americans for the first half and the Russians for the second half. You have a very, low selection of weapons, from the M1 Garand to the Thompson to the Colt, and then also the German weapons of, the Kar and the MP40 and stuff like that. And yeah, I was just kind of really surprised that there are a lot of types of guns that kind of work in the World War II settings that you don't see in the later Call of Duty games, even as like little funny throwbacks or anything. So they're really just only in this game. But yeah, most of the objectives are very stereotypical of most Call of Duty games. You kind of go from objective A to objective B. You destroy this, thing or that thing, and I was playing on basically easy. I can't imagine playing this game on veteran, how unfair that would be, as most Call of Duty games are actually pretty unfair and really just stupidly challenging on veteran anyway. But yeah, I can't say the game is necessarily good or amazing. It's definitely just okay. It's definitely nothing someone should come back and play. But you can if you want to. And really, the game itself is a very, very short campaign, maybe around 8 or so hours, like a normal Call of Duty game is. But yeah, at the beginning of the game, there's certain the low poly textured walls where if you walk up to them, it gives a message saying you're not supposed to open certain doors, so don't worry about it. Just really weird things like that. But yeah, a lot of things in this game are pretty rough. The grenade, you're able to. The grenade actually has the exact same sound as it usually did. In the other Call of Duties, I was really surprised by that, by kind of the sound effects that were very familiar to me. But there was no grenade indicator. There's no visualization of where it is. So you just kind of have to hang back and wait for it to go off, which is pretty funny. And yeah, there's just a bunch of other things in this game that are just like, oh, I recognize that, in terms of the mini map, the waypoint markers, some parts of the interface. But I think we will see a lot of things change in Call of Duty 2. But yeah, I just played this one to get a feel for it, just kind of see what it was like, where it really started. And yeah, there's a very definite roughness to this one. And again, it's very I guess the tone of the game is very by the books. It's very much, not that the Germans are like super evil or anything. It's like, this is just the story of these soldiers trying to give a real war scenario without trying to make it anything personal or anything. It's just a very tactical kind of game. Again, for the story, it doesn't really matter. Like most Call of Duty games, you're just thrown into the action, and you just kind of go with what is thrown at you, and trying to understand the thing isn't really important. One thing I did really appreciate, though, is that when you started the Russian campaign, you begin on the the boats going into Stalingrad and the in-city fighting. And what I do like is, from historical context, is they arm you with 5 rounds of Mosin Nagant ammo and no gun, and so you have to team up with this other guy, this lieutenant, and you or the other soldier rather, and basically you have to go around through the level. And basically, soon you basically secure very quickly another Mosin Nagant from a fallen soldier. But I like that they had that historical bit in there where they literally give you like a clip and no gun, and the other guy has a gun and a clip. It's just absolutely ridiculous when you actually see it happening, even in game, as a simulation of what was actually really going on. It's just so stupid. And once you get the PPSH, though, it's like a lot more fun to do the Russian campaign. I think it's interesting that the way this game ends, it's kind of with the Americans and British co-forces kind of taking out the V2 rockets. Um, and those are kind of like the big symbols of danger. That you kind of take out the Nazi super weapon. I should have mentioned, it's actually really interesting that in this game, there's actually a Captain Price. And so, very similar to the Captain Price of, Call of Duty 4, he is, this, British serious guy who's, says good job, lads, and all that kind of stuff. And so, he's a recurring character throughout the series, actually. So, even back then, there was another Captain Price, which I find very interesting and very funny. Again, what's also very surprising about this game is that there are certain sections that were in the game that just surprised me. There's a tank section, there's a vehicle shooting around while being mobile section. There's a stealth section, a sniper section. And even in the tank section, what really surprised me is you were able to like mow over the trees. This game doesn't look exactly, super amazing, but the fact that you were able to do certain functions and do have certain features was really interesting and surprising. Again, that they allowed you to do certain things that worked. There's also one part where you're blasting through, this small German town. And it's not every building, but some buildings have destructible cover, so you can blast it and they'll actually blast apart, almost like Battlefield or something. And again, it's like really kind of impressive. The other thing that also really shocked me about this game, and I find this a lot with a lot of earlier games in general, or rather the first entries in a series, is that the sound design is like the key thing. Like, so much attention is given to sound design, and when you actually listen to this game, it is very loud and very violent and kind of honestly headache inducing. But that amount of detail to making the guns sound as realistic and as powerful and as loud as possible is really present in this game. Another thing that I noticed is that even this far back, the death animations for the soldiers, while they do kind of end abruptly, are still very much like a lot more animated and designed than I thought it would be. Again, it's interesting how a lot of the environments are super, super simple, super toned down, not very memorable, frankly, but it's still just very impressive how much effort, or how far really the series has come from this point. So overall, this was an interesting little throwback. Would I recommend this? Absolutely not. It's not that fun to play. It's kind of a very World War II shooter. Like super, super standard. I guess if you're looking for a standard World War II shooter, or trying to find out what like a proper parody of a World War II shooter would be, I guess you play this. But there's absolutely no reason to actually play, because it's not enjoyable, or it's not worth it at all. It's just like, oh, that was neat, but yeah, not worth it. Another weird feature also is that you have 4 weapons, and grenades being one of them, 2 primary weapons, and your sidearm. And I found that really interesting. And you can only swap out your 2 primary weapons, obviously. So you always have a sidearm and a grenade. Of course, you can run out of that as well. The other interesting thing about it too, I don't think you can cook grenades in this one. I think if you just hold it, it'll just hold its thing. The other thing I like is they don't give you a lot of ammo. They kind of, when you start the mission, you have almost just enough ammo to make it through the mission, but that does encourage you that if you do run out, or if you're very liberal with your ammo, then essentially you will need to, at some point, pick up enemy weapons or switch to another gun or something like that, which I do always enjoy. Again, in this game, it feels like submachine guns are stupidly overpowered versus the bolt-action rifles. I guess they're trying to make it somewhat realistic, maybe, but the bolt-action rifles, it takes 2 hits to kill an enemy, and that's really, really frustrating, frankly, especially when a submachine gun, if you just, do a short burst, it'll take them out. And when a bolt-action, takes at least 2, then that just feels really tedious, frankly. Another weird thing that also surprised me was that the ADS, the aim down sights, was toggleable. Or was by default on toggled. So you didn't have to hold it, you just had to click it and unclick it, which felt very, very odd and very interesting, I guess. Another thing that also made me smile was the fact that the tutorial level was the same type that you see in every Call of Duty game. It's usually some kind of course that you need to run and go through, and that at the end of that they give you a grade. And I don't think they suggest a difficulty yet, but they have the same idea of like, okay, you're going to go through this training course, and then you're going to basically get familiarized with all how to fight essentially. But yeah, I've never really been a fan of World War II shooters simply because I don't know, I'm not really a fan of how do I say, historic or accurate shooters. I always like there to be some level of kind of abstraction when I'm playing a game. I feel it's just a very banal and boring, kind of sticks to the rules of design or historical accuracy, and that's all fine or whatever. But I prefer something, I guess, more like a Killzone, which obviously has a World War II inspired theme, but is more abstract and interesting in the story that it wants to tell, and not just being about a game and gameplay. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I think another thing that was interesting is that the quotes are still here in this one. When you die, it'll have a list of quotes from famous people. But yeah, this was kind of an interesting game to play, a little experiment. But I at the end of the day, I still wouldn't really recommend it. It's still just very okay at the end. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'll see you later. Bye.